I'm Professor Amanda, and class has officially begun. I hope that you've enjoyed our guest lectures so far for the month of January, and we still have a couple more to go. Today's lesson is going to be brought to you by Wallower, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with him. He's a GBL master, he's always on the front page, and he's also really good at theory crafting and analyzing different Pokemon in different scenarios. So today, Wallower is going to be discussing the safe swap in team building, so check it out.
What's up, guys? For those of you who don't know me, I'm Wallower, and I will be teaching today's lesson on the safe swap in Pokemon Go PvP. So before we get into it, let me talk about what I mean when I say the word safe swap, or kind of define the terms here. So a safe swap is a designated Pokemon that you switch into when you lose the lead, or your lead Pokemon has a very poor matchup against their lead Pokemon. So why is this important? Well, I think that it's generally overstated how much losing a lead should impact your game. Losing a lead shouldn't lose you your game unless you're not using a safe swap. So if you're one of those people that really believes in the fact that a lost lead means a lost game, hopefully I'll be able to change your mind over the course of this video. So why is the safe swap so important? In a lot of cases, if you lose your lead, your safe swap is there to kind of mitigate the damage and put you in a less unfavorable position than you were before. So this can look like a number of different things. This can be a swap in to win back switch with an energy advantage. This can be your safe switch just getting a shield advantage and still losing switch advantage. Or it can even be your safe switch losing shield and switch advantage, but by a less amount than your lead would have in the first place. There's a little bit of a difference between safe swaps in GBL and Silph. In GBL, there's a vast ocean of Pokemon that can be available. You kind of have to be prepared for everything. As such, safe swaps kind of are limited to a certain amount of Pokemon with some very favorable characteristics. In Silph, when you know the opposing Pokemon can only be 3 of 6 different Pokemon, a safe swap can be anything. It has to be very tailored to their team, however, so it does take a little bit of practice to look and see what Pokemon you can be using as your safe swap after they've revealed their 6. So I'm going to go into quickly some favorable characteristics of what makes a good safe swap, and I'm going to go over 6 different things here. It is not to say that a good safe swap needs to have all 6 of these things, especially in Silph, where you can see all 6 of their Pokemon, but the good safe swaps are generally going to be taking off at least 4 or 5 of these categories, with some of them even being able to take off all 6, which is incredible. So the first characteristic of a safe swap is that it has a lot of neutral matchups and a lot of good coverage on its moves. So when I say neutral matchups, I'm talking about Pokemon that when they do lose matchups, they don't lose very badly. Stuff like Snorlax that can kind of just hit back decently hard against everything. And good coverage, I'm talking about different charge moves that can at least provide damage on almost every Pokemon in the game, or in Silph against the 6 Pokemon that you see before you. The second characteristic is unpredictability. So the more unpredictable your Pokemon, the more varied its charge moveset or fast moveset, the harder it is for your opponent to deal with this, and the more likely it is they're going to have to spend shields. For example, Mew is the perfect idea of unpredictability. It can have so many different charge moves, and thus usually you'll get a shield on the first one from your opponent. The third characteristic is a Pokemon that is good with an energy advantage. This is extremely important because in a safe switch scenario, when you're swapping out of your lead, you're going to be getting an energy advantage because there's that time that it takes your opponent to react and swap in their own counter switch to your Pokemon. In that time, you'll probably be able to get a couple of turns of energy in, and if that's enough to flip certain matchups, then that makes that Pokemon all the better. When I say good with an energy advantage, what does that really mean? How can you tell if a Pokemon is good with an energy advantage? Generally, these Pokemon are Pokemon that charge fast, but they have powerful short charging charge moves. I'm talking about moves like Leaf Blade on Shiftry or Body Slam on the aforementioned Snorlax. Moves like that, where you can kind of outpace your opponent and force them to spend more shields than you do. Kind of trading shields for shields. The fourth characteristic of a good safe swap is high damage fast moves. So the thing is, this kind of has a bit of a juxtaposition against the previous characteristic. if we have high damage fast moves, you generally also don't have high energy gain. But what the high damage fast move allows you to do is kind of force the issue, right? You can spend shields to kind of win back switch advantage. And because you can do this, your opponent is more likely to shield your first moves. I would get into more of that, but that's an extremely in-depth and detailed explanation. It probably would warrant itself another video. But there are fast moves that provide both high damage and good energy advantage. For example, counter being one of probably the best move in the game. Shadow Claw, one of the best moves in the game. These provide Pokemon with great energy gain, so they can take care of characteristic 3, and high damage, taking care of characteristic 4. The fifth characteristic of a safe swap, this is a more advanced one, is just a tanky Pokemon is a better safe swap just because of the ability that you have to catch charge moves from your lead, allowing your lead to gain an energy advantage while wiping out the energy of the opposing lead when you swap in. And then the sixth and most important, and this is the only one that I think is absolutely necessary in both GBL and Silph, is that your safe switch needs to be able to come in onto the counters of your lead and be able to bait out the counters of your closer. So what I'm saying is, if you can't swap your safe switch into the Pokemon that counter your lead Pokemon, then you're not going to be safe switching at all. You're just going to be sacrificing a Pokemon. For example, if you're leading an Altaria and you want to have Skarmory as your safe switch and they lead a Bastiodon, you can't swap your Skarmory into their Bastiodon. The Bastiodon is just going to farm your Skarmory all the way down, and it's going to have enough health to take out the Altaria later. The second part of this is less needed, but I think also very important. Being able to bait out the counters for your closer is a nice bonus. It helps to alleviate some of the pressure on your final Pokemon, your hidden Pokemon, to do all of the work by itself. So let's take a look at an example, a shining example of a good safe switch in GBL, and that is Deoxys Defense. So let's go through these characteristics with Deoxys Defense. Neutral matchups and good coverage. Deoxys Defense hits almost everything with super effective damage or neutral damage with the combination of counter, rock slide, thunderbolt, or even psycho boost subbing in for one of those two. Unpredictability, it's got 3 potentially very good charge moves. Many players run Deoxys Defense with a different combination of those 3. You sometimes have to shield the first one if it's going to be a one-hit KO. The unpredictability is paramount here with Deoxys Defense. Is Deoxys Defense good with an energy advantage? Does it have fast charging but powerful charge moves? Yes, it does. It's got Psycho Boost, which is a very powerful charge move, charges in 5 counters. Rock Slide is extremely powerful as well, even though it had a slight nerf recently. It does a ton of damage and charges in just 7 counters. 6 or 7, depending on which rotation. Does it have high damage fast move? Yes, counters a 4 damage per turn fast move. That's an incredibly high damage fast move. Is it tanky and able to catch? Yes, it also checks off that one. And the last one obviously is team dependent. So Deoxys Defense, an example of a fantastic safe switch, checks off almost every box there is. And if you look at the list of the top 10 safe switches on PvPoke, you're going to see a pretty common trend as well. A lot of them have moves like Shadow Claw and Counter. A lot of them have charge moves like Body Slam and Lunge, moves that hit incredibly hard and benefit from the energy advantage that the fast moves can give you. There's some in this list, for example, Galarian Stunfisk, that doesn't have much damage on its fast move, but it makes up for it with other areas of its play, such as being incredibly tanky, having incredibly fast charging and powerful charge moves, and being able to outpace opposing Pokemon with a little bit of an energy advantage. So, to demonstrate the power of a safe switch, I kind of want to go through a couple clips. We'll start in GBL, just because it is a little bit simpler to show how a safe switch can work. So we're going to start with a clip here. And this is an example where we have a very poor lead. This is Vigoroth into Toxicroak. And I'm going to show 2 examples. It's going to be the same leads and how this differs. So we're going to swap into Galvantula as our safe swap here. And we're going to be met with Abomasnow. So in this case, my opponent does not have a Pokemon that Galvantula is not able to beat in the 2 shield. So in this case, this is an example of a game where your safe switch can actually win you back switch advantage in the even shield. Vigoroth versus Toxicroak, there is absolutely no way that can happen. That's an absolutely dominating matchup which ends up with Toxicroak basically farming down Vigoroth at the expense of a shield, or even not really spending a shield. So as we watch this clip continue, we're going to see Galvantula able to tank one Weather Ball here after a couple lunges. And it's going to be able to just barely squeak to that next lunge with its final shield. And you'll see that this lunge is going to be just enough to take out this Abomasnow and win back switch advantage. So even though you lost the lead, you now have switch advantage. Of course, this is the best case scenario, right? So I'll move into another scenario. We'll take a look at the exact same lead here. Let's just pull it up. And we've got Vigoroth into Toxicroak again. This is the same team, right? I want to keep it as simple as possible so you can see the different scenarios. We're going to swap into Galvantula here. So Galvantula into Toxicroak. They decide to stay in a little bit here. Trying to force a shield, I think. Catch a lunge, and then swap out. So in this case, I'm going to be able to throw this lunge. And they're going to swap out into Tropius. So in this case, they've blown a shield as well. It's now one shield Tropius versus Galvantula. It may not be possible to win this match. Tropius is an incredibly tanky Pokemon. Lunges don't hit for super effective damage. It can tank one. But because I still have a shield remaining, I'm going to be able to force the issue, spend my shields, to kind of force them to spend their shield as well. And like I mentioned earlier, the Toxicroak versus Vigoroth matchup is extremely dominating towards Vigoroth. So Toxicroak absolutely stomps Vigoroth. In this case, we're going to end this matchup with a double debuff Tropius and Galvantula going down. So instead of having an extremely lopsided matchup, this is the worst case scenario. This is like a slightly losing matchup where you can actually come in and farm down a Pokemon off of this. So it's quite a bit different. So now I want to talk about how to apply this safe switch knowledge into your Silph games. So we'll take a case study of a game where I played, I think this was in Nightfall Cup. And I'll show the teams below or to the side. And you can see that my team really wants to save my Galarian Stunfisk. If you look at my opponent's team, their team only really has one true answer to Galarian Stunfisk, and that is Medicham. If you look at their team, it also has a pretty big weakness to Shadow Victory Bell. The only two Pokemon that can really deal with it are Noctowl and Venusaur, and those are honestly pretty dominating matchups, right? So if I were to lead Shadow Victory Bell, I would have to have a swap that can pivot into my Galarian Stunfisk, which I'm obviously going to run in this scenario. So I'll let you guys pause for a second as well, if you want to try and figure this out on your own, because I don't want to spoil it as well. It'll be a good little exercise. So let's take a look at my Pokemon and see which Pokemon fulfills all the requirements of a safe swap in this scenario. What Pokemon do I want to swap into in the case of a Noctowl or Venusaur lead that will allow me to lessen this disadvantage of the lead and perhaps even draw out the Medicham. Because if I can draw out the Medicham, then my Galarian Stunfisk with an energy advantage can go to town on the rest of their team. Alright, let's take a look at the game. So we can see that I'm leading Victreebel into Noctowl, kind of as predicted. You don't always plan to lose. I don't always plan to lose leads, but sometimes it's fine. And we see that my safe swap here is Toxicroak. So Toxicroak is a Pokemon here. It doesn't have the greatest matchup into Noctowl, but you can win with a bait. They also realized they really want Noctowl to deal with my Shadow Victory Bell. They likely didn't bring Venusaur as well in the back. That would be a bit overkill. But I'm able to get a shield right away off of Medicham with Sludge Bomb. And this is because Toxicroak has a high damage fast move as well and counter. if they let the Sludge Bomb through, they know that I can spend shields there to kind of win back switch advantage. So in this case, I let my Toxicroak down, and look at where we are right now. Toxicroak has won back shield advantage already in this matchup. Sure, Medicham is very healthy, but Victreebel, spending just one shield back, can take out this Medicham. So essentially, we've got a reset here, right? It's now going to be Victreebel into Noctowl, except Victreebel now has an additional like 50 energy, and I'm going to be able to get this Sludge Bomb. So what this Toxicroak did was pivot this entire matchup in a way where my Victreebel just gained 30 energy for no reason. And now because of this, I've also eliminated their best Galarian Stunfisk counter. I'm going to be able to swap into my Stunfisk, and I will get an energy lead over their Stunfisk in the back. So while this is a bit of a baiting game, as Stunfisk versus Stunfisk always is, getting an energy advantage in a mirror matchup is absolutely paramount in most cases. And because they fall for the bait, I know that regardless of what they throw, I know it's probably going to be a Rock Slide, but I'm fine to shield it, and I'm going to be able to beat them to that all-important Earthquake. And it's going to be enough to finish this match. So this just shows the importance of safe switch here. Noctowl versus Shadow Victreebel is probably one of the worst matchups in Nightfall. It's not winnable at all. So the fact that I was able to swap in Toxicroak to not only bait out their counter, but put my Shadow Victreebel in a more favorable position against the Noctowl later. This Noctowl is very low because of the Sludge Bomb. Galarian Stunfisk might have been able to finish the job anyways, but it would have been a much closer game. But yeah, that's this example as it pertains to Silph. In conclusion, I think that the safe switch is something that every aspiring Pokemon Go PvPer should learn about. It's a vast help in GBL and in Silph. Being able to apply this to Silph is is something that a lot of players I've seen don't really do so far, or applying the fact that it can bait out counters. So be sure to take your time when you're looking at your opponent's team of 6 to pick your proper team of 3, and always consider what happens if you lose the lead, right? You can't win every lead. It's not going to happen, but you don't have to make your games rock, paper, scissors either. But yeah, hope everyone learned something, and thanks for watching.